Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Our session is about marketing operations 2025, trends, threats, and promises of the future. And with you, myself, Helen Abramova, I'm Director of Marketing Operations at Bazaar Voice. And Paul, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Paul Wilson, I'm VP of Marketing Operations and Technology at OneTrust. Really happy to be sharing this session today with Helen.
And both myself and Paul, we are pretty old, not an old users of Marketo, but kind of experienced Marketo users, worked a lot in marketing operations community, and you probably heard about us in marketing operations, Slack channels and Marketo user groups and so forth. So what we are going to talk today about, what questions we are trying to answer. First of all, how will marketing operations evolve? Because we've been here for a while and we are very curious to see what's going to happen, how our path is moving forward. How will it interconnect with data and tech? Where data and tech would be placed in the marketing operations mix? What are the key drivers in marketing operations and how marketing ops talent would evolve? So those are our key focus areas for today. So number one question, why 2025? And obviously we would love to say, oh, we want to have a century or even a decade kind of line of sight. Well, realistically, we can't. And there are three major limitations, so to say. First of all, technology. It's accelerating and it's growing ahead of adoption and ahead of, honestly, prediction. We don't know what would take place, how it will all evolve, what a new revolutionary technology would come. And this is really challenging for all of us to decide and say how it will impact our industry. Digital transformation in general, some of the companies are pretty much, and organizations, they're pretty much moving into the digital transformation, and some of them are kind of slowing behind. And there is a growing gap. And depending on where you are you on those who are already there or who are starting the journey or who has not even started? This is going to be very, very difficult and different stories. And that's why we really want to kind of limit our view in 3 years horizon. And overall, the world, I don't think I need to remind everyone, but there is lots of things happening, including war, actual war. There is a post-pandemic, or I would say pandemic, I don't know what stage of that. There is economic recession, there is climate change, there are lots of politics happening, and it's all impacting economy in general and our marketing ops area. So let's talk about a framework, what marketing ops we are talking about. So we are very much familiar with these pillars, and there was a Tumos work and 4 pillars of marketing ops developed and released a few years ago that were, I would say, the most central or cornerstone of our understanding of marketing operations. And we kind of understand there might be different pillars. I put 5, but there might be more or less depending on the company size, on how big is your marketing ops team. But it seems to us, and I'm talking to about myself and Paul because we discussed it a lot, there is much more on the top of it. So if you're talking about vertical functions or pillars, but there are also horizontal functions or so-called products that are going across multiple pillars, across multiple, so to say, I'm doing analytics, I'm doing only marketing technology and nothing else. And those pillars, they're kind of feeding and they are becoming foundations for products, and the products are becoming so critical. And this is the gist of marketing ops. No one is really caring, no one wants to hear about how the data is going from one place to another place. Everyone wants to hear what you're going to do with that, how you're going to use it, how it would impact me, how it would drive the bottom line, what kind of KPIs I can understand from this data, how I can do those integrations so it will actually work, how the data mapped between the systems, how it's becoming kind of behind the scenes utility type of work that is happening. but it's not what really we can bring to the table. And this is not what we even should be talking to our stakeholders and internal customers.
Yeah, I sort of see this as being the internal and external of marketing operations. And I think, as Helen mentioned, we've talked about this a lot. And I think there are a lot of us who are right now in the throes of transition to having a product-centric approach externally with our customers inside the business. So when we want to talk with sales and marketing, aligning them on what we're going to do for lead handoff or for lead scoring, all of these elements are the conversations we should now be having with our internal customers. And those conversations should almost function like product roadmap discussions. So we gather the requirements that the business has around the core offerings that marketing operations has. And we have conversations with those internal stakeholders around what their priorities are and how they want us to work the backlog of requirements that they've given us. I think it's in this moment that we're transitioning away from having conversations with marketers about Eloqua or HubSpot or Marketo or Lean Data or Snowflake or Tableau. Those are almost the back-end systems that we're the experts on. And we're transitioning to a place in operational maturity where the discussions we're having should not be about technology specifically. They should be about what the business requirements are. And those business requirements are really those product offerings that we have.
If we summarize this view into vertical functions and horizontal products, there are 3 layers in both, and it's kind of, as we were talking about, pillars are more foundational and products are more business oriented and more strategic. But there are also like maybe 3 layers in each, or we can kind of align with those. Foundations, business as usual, growth, where we need to invest more, where we need to focus and build more to provide growth for business, and also transformation at the top of it, how we are like providing totally new functionality, totally new opportunities for the company. So this is like the most important, the most strategic. This is where the most critical insights and actions would take place. And if you expand a little bit more, so vertical functions are very much aligned with tactical, instrumental, and high specializations. This is where we have people working specifically in the trenches, right? Like they are doing some specific functions and they're very well at doing this. And then we are talking about products where it's more cross-functional, there is more visibility and perceived value. I'm saying perceived because I don't want to say that pillars are like no longer, absolutely not. But it's more valuable and visible for our stakeholders. And this is where we can bring on more, like prove our value, prove our like what we are talking about and why marketing ops is so important. And ultimately, we are talking about strategy and advisory, like leadership level. And this is where it's really C-level opportunity to talk and provide visibility and engagement. And it's also really high level view upon the whole marketing. We are not talking about systems anymore. We're not talking about specific data point or any integrations. We're talking about how to move the needle, how to ensure that we are launching a product or a feature, or we are going to a specific segment. What should happen? And how we will ensure that it's all happening. And this is where we as leaders and we as practitioners, we all need to understand what kind of insight we can bring to the table and how we can drive this conversation. And I'm very curious, Paul, do you have any additional thoughts on this?
No, I think that this is really that key of the evolution that we were talking about. And, you know, I look back a decade ago and people were hired into marketing operations based on the technology expertise they had. So you were hiring a HubSpot person or an Eloqua person or a Marketo person. And that was basically the extent of our profession's designations. And I think now what we're seeing is the operational framework evolve. And so we're seeing that change and the establishment of different roles for our function to play for the business. And so I think as we're thinking forward a few years, we're thinking about how do we speak about the skills that exist in our function? at these multiple levels. So going beyond the place where marketing operations is just that tactical functional layer to really being a partner in the business and being able to be at the table in discussions about digital transformation, to be at the table talking about security, privacy, to talk about the long-term plans for digital experience for the business. So I think this is a great visualization of that framework.
So if you think about overall marketing ops team or function, there are a few very distinctive features that we would love to highlight. First of all, there is no specific, it's not like a recipe of a pie or like any kind of like, it's not a like scientific explanation of what exactly marketing ops does, because it really depends on a business needs, what kind of stage, what kind of industry, company size, what kind of other resources are available. Marketing ops is kind of like in the middle. It's they call it interconnected tissue, or like something that is helping the business function actually, right? It's kind of like the air that is providing this opportunity to breathe. And there is no clear-cut set of skills or responsibilities. It really depends. You might have a very specific for specific needs, but like otherwise, when we are talking about marketing ops, it's like it's too broad. You cannot talk about marketing ops in general. You really need to specify. And it's also very important to mention that we're talking about those functions, pillars, and we are mixing up and we are combining them and we are transforming them. And this is what is like the most important, the key element of marketing ops.
All of these functions that we've described here are interdependent, intertwined requirements to deliver on all of those core offerings, those core products that marketing operations delivers to the business.
What I would love to point out here is that if we have marketing and we have marketing ops, you see it's just like visually, it's like one way, right? Like it's kind of like only one dependence. And marketing ops are really becoming a little bit of receiving end. But if we have revenue ops that is combining all of it, sales ops, partner ops, customer success ops, and many, many other areas that can be like enablement, and all of it is becoming much more sophisticated and robust organization that will as in total would have much more influence back. They would have much more to bring to the table as a business through this intersectionality and collaboration across the function.
Yeah, and I've seen this called many different things. I think, RevOps is, I think, the most prevalent container that we hear referenced today. But I'm also seeing a lot of large enterprise organizations go to go-to-market operations. So the notion of GTM operations and then GTM technology. And I think that there are various approaches, but I think to Helen's point, it's a matter of defining all of the operational elements of customer lifecycle. So the customer journey, as much as marketing is the most critical element of establishing pipeline and revenue for sales to deliver for the business, the fact that all customer experiences are now basically digital experiences means that the flow and the support of all of those connected processes that support the customer journey can really be contained in one overarching function. And if we describe the various phases of the customer journey as being products that we want to support, the role that marketing ops plays is we are really that initial first element of that whole journey. And I think we're going to see organizations transform their overall operations approach to be centered on that entire customer journey and thinking beyond those former silos that we all are very familiar with. And 10 years ago, were very much these functional silos of operations where you had marketing ops, you had sales ops, you had CS ops, you had professional services ops, you had all of these silos that did coordinate, but they weren't managed as one complete element of lifecycle. And I think the future will see that full operational flow being managed across customer journey with specializations from the key functional elements of the business.
So let's talk about marketing operations strengths and what we can see. So first of all, we have technology conundrum. What do we mean by that? So the thing is, marketing technology sits within marketing ops, but it's like one of those pillars that is feeding marketing ops, but it's not the only one. It can be a profession, an industry on its own, or it can be part of marketing ops, and we all understand this. There is clearly overflow of technology that is like not consumable, not comprehensible, like it's very hard to understand and even learn what's going on the market. Overflow of what it could do. And this is where we have this challenge of, okay, so what can, like, if I can do with this technology 10 different things, which two I can pick up? And this is becoming this question of prioritization and like how I'm road mapping the journey, what is more impactful. And this is where marketing ops are much more powerful than just the marketing technology, because this brain behind the scenes, this attention to not just like playing with new toys and just like enjoying all this because it's just like, yes, it's cool, but really bringing it to some results measured in KPIs, in money, in revenue. And overall, you've probably heard this and probably tired as much as myself and Paul about strategy versus technology. There is no it's not in a position by all means, like absolutely not, because you know, you've heard this many times that medium is the message. So the technology is the message and it's a tool and it's a strategy. So it's becoming so much more complex. It's not one or another, it's both all the time. So our suggestion would be always looking at from a different angle. Trend number 2, marketing ops is a new black. Meaning, well, this is not a real, like a really new something on the market, fancy and shiny. Absolutely not. It's a mainstream. Let me put it like very, very clear. Marketing ops becoming a mainstream. It's already far long ago, it's gotten coupled from tools and platforms. 10 years ago, I was a Marketo admin. Now, like, I'm not a Marketo admin. And not because of like growing in career-wise, which I'm truly proud, but still, like, people are becoming more looking into what they can do with those tools versus what kind of tools they're using. And that's very clear with communities and Slack channels and all kind of realms of conversations that are happening. They're not necessarily tied to tools like it was happening in Marketo community a while ago. It's now like all over the places. Sometimes it's tied, but it's not necessarily the major driver behind those communities. I counted 3 dedicated marketing ops awards. There might be more. Would be glad to hear what other, like dedicated, specifically about marketing ops. There are 10 plus dedicated marketing ops podcasts. And by the way, I have not included RevOps podcasts. So you can imagine, like, if you're ever hungry for more information, there is like no reason to stay hungry. 3 dedicated books published. Again, this is really like, we are becoming a big thing. We are no longer some kind of, you know, preaching in the, like, on our own. Echo chamber effect is getting unlocked, meaning it's already kind of spilled over. It's already, people already hearing about marketing ops, understanding, recognizing. So we believe that the influence is growing, and we can see a number of promotions and senior roles job openings, which is a very good and positive sign, and a sign that the marketing ops are getting mature. However, there are a few things that are happening as well. Lots of voices, but at the same time, lots of stories, points of views, versions of marketing ops. And people would be saying like, oh, marketing ops A or B or C, they should do X or they should do Y. Well, it really depends and like it's always coming back to like what exactly you're trying to, what kind of company you're talking about, what kind of resources you have, pace of the growth. So all of this like becoming such important things. So there are lots of misinterpretation and misalignment. I'm not saying that it's a reason, but it's just like we're still growing and we're establishing those rules. And some of it is just like one of the key features of marketing ops. It's not well defined. You are to define what we are going to do.
Yeah, and this is one of the key challenges. I know we have all encountered in taking on new roles and taking on new challenges. The number of times I've heard conversations where a marketer comes to marketing ops and says that, well, that's not the way that you should use Marketo. When I was at my last company, fill in whatever optimization they think that they're able to do without really fully understanding the complexity of the circumstances and the environment that they're now a part of. So to Helen's point, I think the definition of what is within marketing ops should really be defined by the business and the function understanding the role that they should play. And there is no set rule. There is no set guidebook that you can take off the shelf that fully represents for your business the way marketing operations fits into the operations teams.
I listed dedicated podcasts. So if someone is interested, or please send me more if you have ones. We would also want to outline cycle of excitement and frustration. And you're probably very much familiar with this kind of like, we have high expectations, we have promises, there are high hopes. There is disappointment because marketing ops can do one thing at a time. It cannot do 10 different things at the same time. And there is some kind of pullback, and there are some breakthrough because like what else can help but marketing ops?
Right.
And there would be more hopes. So it's kind of like going in this cycle, which is we all observe, and yeah, we understand. And there is also, I call it new shiny consultant syndrome, meaning we all know what we know, but like let's bring one more consultant who would prove what we already know. And there is lots of heartburn and everything around it, but still it's happening. And Paul, do you want to speak a little bit about run business versus transform business, because I literally stole it from you?
Yeah, so I mean, really, when you think about the functions that we provide the business, there is the ongoing keep the lights on type activity that we do, and that's the ensuring that leads get scored properly, routed properly. I mean, for your business, you know what those things are. But then there is the connected sometimes to the shiny object syndrome. There's the we need to do ABM, and a lack of understanding or a lack of clear appreciation for what that means. And so we get into the cycle of excitement and frustration there. But that transformation of the business as technology is always evolving, and the approach to business is always evolving. We're all now versed in how to run virtual events, when a few years ago, that was probably something that wasn't really a high priority. So we need to also be able to do that transformational work for the business. And I will highlight before we leave this slide that one of the biggest challenges I think we've all experienced is that promises portion of the wheel of excitement and frustration. Often the promises are set by the salespeople of whatever piece of technology the business has lately acquired. So understanding what those expectations are and those high hopes and disappointment cycle, that's one of the things that I know we've all enjoyed and had the scars from.
So let's talk about talent. There are lots of conversations recently, and we are talking about this as a marketing ops talent ambiguity. Lots of challenges. First of all, junior and senior talent shortage. So like if we it's actually, I have it on the next slide. So we have bottom that is like not fed by any, like there is no inflow of junior talent. And there is senior talent that is like quite established, but there is, people cannot make a progress in their career because there is like not enough junior people. And there is, I put it here, source of, there was a very good report published by Demandbase and Highway Education. I highly recommend to get familiar with that. But essentially, it's outlined one of the key elements, that people are getting stuck because they need to have someone who would pick it up and they would move on. And there is also too technical ceiling. You probably have heard this a lot when people are saying like, why not am I getting promoted? Why not me? And they answer, well, you're kind of like, you're smart, but you're too technical because you can speak language that is easily to be understood by developers, by someone on the technical side.
Who would look after Eloqua if we promoted you?
Oh yeah, yeah, you're so smart, you're so good at it. Let me like stay here with like 10 more years until we figure it out. And going quickly here, I talked about high specialization a lot, but this is still a challenge because there is, if someone is looking for unicorn, please stop. Like we should stop looking for unicorns. And there is also a tug of war between hard skills and soft skills, meaning, do we need to have someone who is intellectually curious, or do we need to have someone with a LQI experience? There is like no size fits all still answer. So trajectories, where we are going with all of this. Number one, technology and admin side of things become a utility and help desk. We see this a lot across multiple organizations. This is becoming a thing. Insights and analytics become a holy grail that is supposed to answer all the questions, all the discoveries, everything. And this is like, there are still quite elevated, or I would say too high expectations around to what it can do. And this is where we really need to work on like how to settle down, like what exactly we can, what kind of information we can provide. Hub and spoke model in terms of marketing ops are becoming a center of excellence with like extended functions, and maybe people are using those tools and processes on their own. RevOps or not RevOps, still like we are trying to understand, and every company is deciding on its own. And with all of this, with all those challenges around expectations, so not clear-cut skills and not clear boundaries, leadership is becoming absolutely, absolutely critical. We are talking about like fluid composition of marketing operations, and different portions of it would be like giving like totally different flavors. And one organization might have totally different team from another. There is also tech and technology as administrative functions owned by IT, but marketing ops would be business owner of the same set of tools, meaning some of it is owned and set up organization, like as a real tools, but what we are doing with it would be managed by marketing operations. And I would also say one word about economic recession. With the compensation settling down, there is layoffs, there are shake-up, and I would say there would be a reality check, what marketing ops can do and how it can help, and what are those expectations. So we talked about trends, we talked about trajectories. So what threats we can see because of unrealistic expectations, and I would say unbalanced prioritization, because we need to do everything yesterday and now. There would be lack of focus, there would be limited resources because we cannot deliver on those expectations. And because of that, we cannot, this is where this frustration and excitement is getting into the play. There would be always a challenge with limited resources, high churn and hiring challenges until we have the marketing ops would be so mature and so well outlined, and leadership would be so strong in place. So it would be protected and it would be more kind of like solidified as a function. A lack of specialization in marketing ops. Again, we're talking about unicorns, ninjas, rock stars, stop doing it. We are not those people anymore. And if you're trying to find this, that means you are trying to find a generalist. Okay, there are a few people that are super, super talented and with all credit, there are people like this, but you cannot count on those superstars. And they have their own idea of what they want to do in their life and their profession. So you cannot really build a team of those people. And in most cases, you would be better off with someone who is very good at what they are good at, with well understanding strengths and weaknesses and building the team. If you're trying to find a generalist all the time, there would be no cutting edge in every single pillar or function or anything else. And there would be also a question about if you're looking at job description, there would be everything, because again, too generalist approach.
And we've seen that We've
Yeah,
seen that
and
where the skills section of the job description is longer than the job description itself.
yes, and in many cases, I feel like I can find I'm hiring for anyone who is like ready to talk to me. Great, but at the same time, if you're trying to find who is someone who is too attentive to detail, but who has like this big picture view, well, it's kind of like you see. I put like some funny examples in front of us. Yes, you can achieve in some cases for more senior people, for more experienced. But in many cases, it would give you kind of like a skewing in hiring. There is like people who would be like speaking, but not necessarily presenting those and like having those skills. So, or they would be good at something, but not at another thing. So this is really where you need to have a trade-off understanding that you need to have highly specialized team members and compiling a very strong team of those good at their role people. I would also mention synchronous work, all our Slack and constant interruptions. It's a real killer of productivity. So we need to think about how we can help ourselves and our teams. Difficulties with providing ROI and what kind of credit we can get. This is coming back to a question about resources. Personality divergence and lack of representation. I think this is becoming more and more problematic, but there are also like counter trends about this as well. At least like raising awareness that that's becoming a challenge. And as we were talking about, lack of junior talent. So the biggest threat, and like if you only remember one thing from our presentation, that would be it. Like we need to have strong leadership. We really need to have someone who can elevate marketing ops, who can connect all those dots. Otherwise, it will be utility without any real impact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And coming to promises, function is getting mature. We have, on the other hand, quite normal or reasonable job descriptions. There is also more conversations and practice around planning and road mapping and kind of like regular normal work of like workload and everything. Marketing ops teams are growing larger, and you can see this through surveys, through like even anecdotal kind of observations, but also reports in terms of resources, budget, and that would be also help a lot with specialization. So you don't need to know 10,000 technology like tech on this landscape. You just need to know some and know how to put your skills at work. And we were talking about leaders would gain more influence, will reach the C-level, and it will also be super, super helpful.
So like if we look at the future of marketing operations, I really think what we're highlighting is the specialization. So it's critical that we have that element of our expertise are relevant, but we need to place them in the view of the larger organization. So that high specialization needs to be balanced within the organization so that our role and that overall vertical to horizontal play is clear. And then the business leadership across the business. I think the challenge that I would put to those listening who are looking for those leadership opportunities is find ways to develop your voice inside the business. Find ways to develop your role across more than just being seen as the Marketo team or the just marketing
Data
ops team.
Analytics team.
That's right. So play a larger role within the business of the go-to-market function or the RevOps function. So that organizational future is a future that we need to influence. So we need to come to the table and speak about our role in that broader world of the operations functions of your business. So if you can start having the conversations that relate marketing operations to the customer journey, not just the lead journey, if you can talk about the role that product-led growth is going to play across the business, that it isn't just a trial to dollars phase, I think that will all help. And then we align marketing operations with those other operations. Another area that I think we need to think about is that full lead flow and handoff. So when we talk about that role of marketing funnel and sales funnel, is we need to have that expertise all the way through the sales funnel and, in my opinion, beyond. So it's not just about getting to the pipeline and getting to the opportunity. It's about how do we influence the life cycle of that journey even beyond that. So an element that I think is also core to the future of our role in the business is how do we influence trust? So as you might be aware, there are new legislative impacts that are going to affect businesses. So we're the stewards of privacy and consent data across all phases of the customer journey. I think it's critical that this is an area of specialization and expertise that we need to bring to the business. And we need to be those stewards of that digital experience and ensure that that trust and consent is driven all the way through the life cycle. So I know we've gone really quickly, and I appreciated the opportunity to speak today with Helen to you all about these things. I look forward to your questions. You can find us all over the place. Bops Pros obviously is a good place. LinkedIn is another to pose your questions. Helen, any wrapping up thoughts for you?
Yes, it was a pleasure, and we are excited and looking forward to questions, feedback, anything or maybe you disagree. Happy to hear. Thanks,
absolutely.
everyone.
Thank you. All right. So love to hear your questions. Love to pick up where we were and see where we go.
Oh, thank you, Alex. It's amazing when you're coming to those meetings, conferences, and basically you see very known and familiar faces. Hi, Grant. All right. Paul, do you want to take this one?
I'm worried that I'm going to end up getting in a fist fight with Grant on this, but I don't know that I think MOPS is a component of RevOps. And I think that if we look at the whole scope of monitoring and protecting the life cycle and journey of what our customers experience, I think there are elements of the overall RevOps world that we should be the stewards of. So I was mentioning about the notions of trust, privacy, and consent data and whatnot. I think that there are natural areas across much more than just what was considered to be lead to opportunity traditional marketing operations. I think we have a voice much farther across the digital experience. So I think that we're an element of revenue ops or go-to-market ops, whatever it's going to evolve to be called. And I think that this is a journey that we should drive. I think our voice and role should be something that we own, and we're not just relegated to in that world.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think that it doesn't really matter where you are and what kind of org structure where you're placed. It's more about what kind of connections you're making, what kind of partnership you're developing. And I would also mention that RevOps or no RevOps, the question that we're all concerned about, it is also we need to take into consideration the company or organization size. In some organizations, it's not even possible because of it might be gigantic and it's just spread across multiple different units. In some cases, it might be clearly that's the right way to go.
Yeah, and I think Heather's point related to is there a standard definition? There is not, and it does depend on the size of the organization. I think we're seeing the marketplace define what revenue operations is, and that's where I'm suggesting that if we're breaking down the old world definitions of sales ops owning Salesforce, marketing ops owning marketing automation, I think the notions of managing digital experience, the notions of managing trust and privacy, the notions of managing communication cadences, these are threads that do bridge now that there's sales tech like SalesLoft and platforms like that. They're technologies that reach across what used to be the silos of marketing ops and sales ops. So I think if we think of revenue operations as supposed to be the anonymous lead through to customer advocate, I mean, that is the entire life cycle of revenue for a business. And so if you're in the business of revenue operations or go-to-market operations, it spans the whole customer journey.
Yeah, and Heather, my ask or advice or tip, just like go ahead and write up the definition that works for you and go with it.
Great questions. The evolution of our space is, it's a topic that I think it is decades old in many ways. And as it evolves, I think it's important that we collectively drive the discussion.
It's a very interesting question or comment from Justin. So,
yeah.
Like, how would you prioritize if you don't have a single point of control?
Right. And I think that is that broader view. And if we can participate in driving the broader view, we are we manage and look after the technologies of specific elements, but those technologies are interwoven. So marketing automation and CRM are not silos. And I think if I can kind of glean from your comment, Justin, if we prioritize, if we move to a product kind of view of the go-to-market or revenue operations world, those products are what need to be managed. So if a business decides that they need to improve, lead nurture, well, lead nurture now kind of spans the 2 points of marketing technology with Eloqua or Marketo, whatever the engine is that marketing is doing for nurture. But we know that salespeople are off there with SalesLoft and other tools, and they're doing their version of nurture. And if we manage it as a product across the business, lead nurture or that bridges those former silos, it gives us, I think, a better view.
I love the question from Grant about product-led growth. So let me start here because it was kind of like point of my interest recently, like how marketing ops should be involved and like where they are in this mix. And I do think this is it's a trend for sure. And it's an opportunity as well to get closer to business and get closer to like decision-making process. And I believe that, there is again, we're talking about risk and stress. Yeah, there is a risk that you're going there and you're getting stuck and like bear it with everything else. But the more you can be involved, the better for you, for marketing ops team, for the entire business.
Yeah, and I think tying on to that, the notion of managing digital experience means it isn't traditional marketing operations. It's managing that product-led experience and what's the platform that's delivering the pings to suggest you should take this step or watch this video or whatnot, and how do we integrate those swim lanes of actions with the way that salespeople behave. Once a product-led experience, if an individual scores at a certain point and it demonstrates that they're probably ready for conversations with sales, how are we then managing the cadence of communication from the product or the platform that's talking on behalf of the product for that product experience? So, I think that we definitely have a role, and I think it's important that we take that perspective that the space that we're in is evolving. People are focusing more on their product experience than the traditional experience of I'm going to get marketing information, then I'm going to get calls from a salesperson, and then I'm going to make a decision. Now the product is where people get a lot of that experience, but it still needs to be orchestrated. It still needs to be done in conjunction with where they're at in a funnel, in a sales cycle eventually. So I think that's all part of the evolution of the space that we're in, and that's that we've seen the number of technologies. Well, the marketplace is also moving, not just flooding with different marketing automation technologies. And I don't know if we should agree that Grant has a maximum of 5 questions, or if he can just keep
We agree. Go ahead.
Yeah. Great question. So it's a fun and interesting space to see the evolution. I mean, I'm here at Dreamforce this weekend. I feel that the landscape again is shifting. You know, there's a new world of CDP that they're launching, taking CDP from being sort of a marketing centric notion and spreading it across the whole customer journey. Salesforce is now talking a lot about trust, and that it's sort of a trust economy, and very important that they're, you know, leading and participating in that. So, more from Grant.
Okay, question about lack of junior MOPS people. Well, I believe it's nature of, like, it's an evolving area, and if you're going into marketing or like business like degree college, and like say like anything about marketing ops, there would be like blank face in many cases, right? Like, what is that? Like, why would they care? And people still think, at least at that level, that marketing is something about brand or advertisement or like very different things. So that is going to change, I believe, like truly believe so. But I also think that that's the involvement of the marketing ops, that like the awareness and understanding, like it's a very interesting and very promising area, and you really want to build your career there. And there are lots of already schools, or, well, not lots, but like there are already some schools or classes or like something that is spreading around. And I'm guilty as well in that respect. So it's good to be here in this field right now, but I don't think that this understanding is well known outside of the realm.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing there, Grant, is the evolution of this space. Because if I think back, you know, not that long ago, marketing operations was an accidental career. You were in marketing, and they gave you responsibility for technology, and then you stumbled into a part of marketing. And as businesses have specialized and focused using more technology in this area, the bar of experience started impeding people from getting in at that ground level, where it was that you were accidentally shoved onto the ground level before. Now there's a level of expertise and experience that companies are expecting from the market, but the market isn't building those skill sets naturally. So I think, you know, to Helen's point, and I think inherent in your question, there needs to be a better mentorship or expansion of the way that people get into that level, that initial level of experience. I think there also needs to be more opportunity in colleges and schools to develop the experiences around the technology and understand business process operations, to understand the way that customer journeys can be mapped. And I think that would bring more people into this space and help them develop skills to get them hired.
So they should learn not like five forces of, like Porter 5 forces, like something like this, but rather like 4 pillars of marketing operations. That would be a change.
Right. That's right. Yes. Well, and I think that if you know, if events like this also were made available, you know, for free for students and whatnot, to see what this space looks like, I think it would also entice people to join.
And there is like a second question: what is the best place to look for people? Oh,
that's very tough, you know, and I think that goes to where talent is getting developed.
Yeah. Right now, there is no like single place to go. Okay.
Right.
Cycle of excitement and frustration.
And the final minute, unfortunately. So. Do you want to take the cycle of frustration?
Yeah, I can start. Well, I kind of invented this idea based on Scott Brinker, he has this kind of like line of adoption, and then there is like not frustration, but like some kind of disappointment, and then again, like I was like, okay, no, it's actually like a spiraling excitement and frustration. I think it's something that we need to handle and just optimize. I don't think it's like entirely easy to just like stop or prevent from happening. We'll see it again and again. It's kind of like philosophical approach, at the same time staying professional, doing what we can do, and coming back to like main idea of our business. Like we need strong leadership, and we need to be really good at like our specific area that we are good at. So we can point out and we can leverage all our like compile the best team, present it the best way, advocate for ourselves. So that's one thing. And like talking about the entire customer experience and the entire process and the digital experience, that's another important kind of, I'm just like repeating, to be honest, but I think that's the only way to go. There's no easy answer.
I think another path, Grant, would be to think about that product notion. So if we manage what we do in terms of product operations, then it isn't just a shiny spike of some new toy. It's how does it fit in and further the life cycle of one of the products that we're managing. Unfortunately, I think we're out of time, but you know where to find us: LinkedIn, MOPS Pros, and excited to keep the conversation going. Very glad that you all were able to attend, and I really enjoyed sharing the stage with Helen.
Thank you. And please connect with us. And if you have some questions, please bring it in.
Thanks, everyone.